Hello and welcome to the Ren Den. I'm Ren, this is the Den, and over the last few months I've been getting into Longstitch Tapestry in a sort of very slow burn kind of a way. I've really enjoyed it. I have finished one thing and got most of the way to finishing another thing. What you're about to see is a slightly disjointed, but I hope still entertaining collection of my Longstitch Tapestry journey, culminating in the completion of a project, so hopefully it does still feel satisfying. I've really enjoyed it as a project. It works up a lot faster than a lot of embroideries, which is what it's kind of the most similar to for me. So, yeah, anyway, we'll dive right in. I hope you enjoy. I haven't got the mic on because I wasn't going to speak. This was going to be ambient filming, so apologies if the sound is bad, but I would just like to acknowledge it feels quite chaotic in here at the moment. So we've got the screen there. I'm watching the new Critical Role series. This is the... In fact, I could take the lid off and then it would be sort of cute chaos rather than... Here you go. All my embroidery threads, because I'm not doing this in the colours that it came with because it's a bit like red, white and blue, and I'm not doing that right now. So we're doing a sort of tealy, turquoisey one to start, and then I'll see how I feel for the next one. This is here because we had to sort out insurance this morning. This is here because we had D&D last night. This is here because we had D&D last night. This tray is full of cranes. You can't even see that, but there's a tray here that's full of paper cranes I haven't found homes for yet. I'm sort of wedged in between like tech that I've sort of dumped is down here. There's a big bag of yarn behind me, which I'm planning on using for something. There's another bag back here that's my like bird watching bag that's got all my bird watching stuff in it. The armchair, can you see? A little bit, is full of stuff. There's just like a box of yarn and some books and a game and stuff on it. We're living in a chaos. A chaos? Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. We're living in a chaos right now. Just to contextualize the situation. But I am really enjoying doing an embroidery floss one of these because it means I can really use everything I've got, whereas with the the sort of more normal like tapestry yarn ones, obviously I kind of have to use what comes in the pack, and I don't always agree what would be cute. And its work is coming up, even though the thread is narrower, it's coming up much faster because it's smaller, so that's also quite nice. I am a little bit on a time crunch for it, but we're getting there. I think we'll be okay. The thing that I like about having changed the colours as well is that I've kind of ended up with, and not necessarily in order, but all the kind of seasonal colours. There's a sort of summer green, spring pink. I'm doing kind of autumnal orange now, which I think will go really nicely with the brown. And then the sea and the sky is all kind of blue and white. And I think it just kind of, I don't know, it'll make it a sort of, what's the word, evergreen thing, I hope, to have as decoration. I do every so often have to remember to hold the whole thing up in the air and let the thread spin out. And you can sort of tell the lines that you're laying are getting a little bit skinnier as the thread is getting a little bit sort of more twisted around itself. The lines demarcating the different colour areas are not necessarily always, they're not bad in this kit actually, but they're not necessarily always kind of directly along a line that would make sense to try and sew to. So often I'm having to kind of make my own judgment as to where I think a line should begin or end. And I can definitely see the advantage of having a stand that like actually holds this, even just like really low to the table. I'm sort of wedged it between me and the table and my hand, and whatever hand isn't holding the needle is holding the frame, which is fine and has got me this far, but maybe I should start thinking about if I want to do more of this. And I really like how fast it works up, but yeah, if I want to do more of this, then for the sake of my hands I might need to look for a sort of small frame that can kind of, is sort of lap or table based, just to hold this frame. I don't know if that's a thing, sort of similar to my embroidery stand, I guess, so it would have a clamp on it. I wonder, no, this is too big. It would need 2 clamps, I think. I think the embroidery stand isn't going to hold something this heavy. Wow, wow. This is what the design was going to be according to the kit instructions. And this is what it is. I'm really pleased that I changed the colors. I think this was like a little bit too kind of primary color, a little bit too simplistic, and the blue was very dark on this and the red was very strong. And I didn't quite, it's not my vibe, you know. Whereas going for these kind of in between colors, I think has kind of brought the whole thing a bit of a sunnier vibe. Like it really does kind of have like all the colors of the seasons a little bit, but sort of, you know, kind of in a kind of disguised way. Um, and yeah, I just think it's really sunny and really like cute. So the next thing I have to figure out is how to display it. Um, my plan basically is to cut some cardboard, take this out of the frame, obviously, and then kind of wrap it around the cardboard, or like the kind of like thin wood that you get in the back of a picture frame, that sort of something strong like that. I guess you would stitch or glue it into place and then get like a square frame that's like a little bit bigger than it so that it can have a bit of a sort of white border is what I'm imagining, to go around it. That is going to be dependent on finding a frame I like, and whether that's the correct thing to do. I haven't yet Googled how to mount long stitch pieces, and I'm probably not going to take it out of the frame until I've figured that out, just so that nothing shifts around too much. I think it's useful to keep it taut. So I need to do a little bit of research, but this is now officially my first finished long stitch project, which is really cool. The ship hasn't quite made it to that point. Where is it? We're not too terribly far away with the ship. If you take the stuff out the back, maybe you can see from the light what's not done. Where my hand is. It is basically the ship and like a couple of little bits around that I haven't done because the ship is complicated and seems scary. So we're not quite there on that one. That one will probably, I'll want that to go up on the wall in here, whereas this one is a gift. I found this kit really easy to follow, quite pleasingly fast at working up. I was a bit concerned, obviously it's much smaller than the ship, but I was a bit concerned because you're only using embroidery floss, so obviously the strands are thinner. And I was like, have I bitten off more than I can chew? But actually it's worked out really nicely. I think the design is the right amount of like complex and simple, if that makes sense. Like I was thinking about going back and adding like dark green into the green of the hedges between the sheds, because you can't, like, that really kind of fades into the background because it's quite pale, but actually I don't want that to be the focus. That's just background. And I think to add kind of color shading into it would mess with the sort of complexity level of the design in a way that actually wouldn't be that rewarding. So I've left it as is, and I think that's the right decision. There's a couple of bits on the longer lines. I feel like it's harder to, if the stitch is longer, it's harder for the thread to fill the space. I don't know why that would be. So I did add a couple of extra lines on the pink house, and it is kind of slightly obvious they are sort of standing a little bit proud. I think I'm okay with that because it's symmetrical on the house. and I would rather it be uneven than there be white space showing. So I think that's fine. I was also worried about a couple of the doors, but they've kind of filled out. So I wonder if the thread, sort of as it fuzzes as you're doing the rest of the design, maybe spreads out to fill the space a little bit more. So maybe I should have just trusted in the process on a pink house, but you know, it's done. I'm not redoing it. I think it looks great. So yeah, would recommend. I assume you can still get these or something similar to this from Anchor. But obviously I got this from a charity shop, so I don't know. And obviously I wouldn't normally use it in a frame this big. That's kind of ridiculous. But the smaller frame was being used with the bigger project. I bought this bigger frame, because it was like a £5 in a charity shop, and I was like, you're never going to find it cheaper than that online because just postage, you know. And the ship one is actually slightly too big for the frame that it's in, because that frame also was secondhand. So I've had to kind of fold the edges to get it to fit on the frame. So I bought this bigger frame thinking that's great. Next time I want to do a bigger project, I will have a frame that's the right size to do it. And then actually the next project turned out to be a smaller thing. So this is kind of wedged on here, like properly filling, and there's like a bit folded around the edge here. And this is just swimming in space. So it does look a bit silly, but actually it was quite nice and it wasn't too heavy. So I'm quite pleased with that. I'm very pleased to have found a bargain, bought a thing, even though it wasn't a thing I was actively looking for, and then immediately made use of it. That feels quite validating in a way that's maybe a little bit dangerous for future purchases. I'll probably take a little bit of a break from this while I work out how I'm going to back it and while I find the frame. You, of course, will experience no delays. There'll be a little bit of futzing and then final result. Okay, I don't remember where I left you, so apologies if this is a bit out of nowhere, but we are framing this today. Because I have to, because otherwise I'm going to run out of time. For the gift occasion I'm supposed to deliver it for, not Christmas. I don't know why I said that weird. It's a birthday present. Basically, I've got this frame, which it should fit into because of the insert. I am prepared to cut other paper if not. The reason you're seeing this one is because by the time you see this video, it will have been given as a gift. So I hope it's good. Right, so the plan is take this out of the frame. I'll have to cut it down to get it into the back of here, but the idea is that I can basically tape it to the back of the paper insert that's doing the framing of this. And that seems to be as complicated as it gets. So in theory we should have a completed piece before too long. Sorry about all the shininess. Which, yeah, I mean, if this is smooth, it does make me feel slightly more motivated to finish the ship Longstitch piece, because I would like that to go up as well in here. I also think there is a chance I will not put the glass back in here because I really like the texture of the Longstitch, and I sort of want that to be a bit more on display, be a bit more tactile. So it's sort of one of those days where just like I feel a bit manic through no real reason except that I've given myself a lot to do. But once this is done, that's everything I have to do today. Alright, so we've just got a stitch ripper. Turn this so I can get to it, slightly awkward angle. I'm going to undo the ends so that I can move it around a bit more easily, and then we're just going to rip this orange thread out. Behold the piece. So the next thing is I'm going to get the back of this out. Okay. So we've got, so that's the frame. And then we've got the glass, the back, and the mount. Don't need that bit of paper. And there we go. That is pretty much spot on. Turns out I can measure things. Cool. Okay, so I've got painter's tape and masking tape because there's not very much masking tape left on the roll. Just for the sake of getting this cut accurately, I'm going to use painter's tape. Is this a good idea? Why not? So I can flip it over without immediately feeling like I've got misaligned. And then it immediately came off, so that didn't happen. Okay. Fine, never mind. Maybe we just... It doesn't have to be exact anyway, because essentially what I'm going to do is cut this... Cut the grid like halfway along here, and then the aim is to just tape it down because that seems to be the method. Okay, so no going back now because it won't go back on the frame. Right, what's the best way to do this to get it aligned properly? How to affix it? Why don't we try masking tape? That feels better than the other stuff. Let's try and fix this a little bit. The adhesive still feels quite good, but it's like almost too good, you know? That's more like it. That's the end of the roll, I think. But we can at least get 2 strips out of it. Oh no, just a little bit more. Okay, moment of truth. Oh, that's lovely. Don't you think that's lovely? That's really cute. Okay. Right, now what I want to try and do is put it in here without the glass. So... I don't know what I'm going to do with the glass. It's got quite pointy corners. I'm a bit scared of it. Right, this way up. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, pros of using the glass. It won't get dusty. It will keep it safer. Cons of using the glass. The texture's not going to be as obvious and it's not going to photograph as nicely. So from a sort of vanity perspective, I should keep this. Okay, here's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to put the glass in because A, the naked pane of glass on the table is scaring me slightly. B, it is easier for the recipient to take the glass out if they don't want it than to find more glass to put it in or to transport, I've got very posh, or to transport the glass separately. Actually, it makes way more sense for it to go in the frame. The recipient has all the bits and bobs to do it either way. Okay. Because if I was doing it, like when I get to eventually framing the ship one, I'm probably going to not put the glass in which case I might look for a frame that doesn't come with glass and comes with acrylic. I'm surprised this doesn't come with acrylic. It's only a Dunelm frame. I mean, it does look very smart. And actually, yeah, there's probably not enough a difference in aesthetic that it would matter. And this will keep it safe at least to transport it. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. So there it is, my first completed framed Longstitch project. Not the first one I started, but the first one I have finished because there were external motivating factors and I had no choice. Cool. So I guess all I've got to do is wrap that. And the frame is now empty if I want to do another one, but I think I should probably finish the ship one next because that's been, I mean, I spent most of 2025 off and on, obviously, working on that. So maybe that needs to be and in front of the television in the evening kind of a project again for a bit and finish that off. But I feel like one completed is enough to make the video feel coherent. So I'm going to go with that. So thank you for watching. This is, I think, one of my more chaotic videos, but I am enjoying myself, so that's all that really matters. And yeah, take care, and I will see you for the next project.